Hi guys. I hope nobody minds, but I just wanted to make a few comments over on the events over the last couple of days, and in particular me sharing this Time Out survey that has voted Manila as the 34th best city in the world. Of course, when I initially saw that online, I was super proud. My beloved Philippines receiving such an accolade. You know, people have to understand that I've been involved with the Philippine community now for over 3 decades. I've been back home to the Philippines 55 times. I've seen the Philippines grow through many challenges. I've seen the Philippines back in the 80s, right up until the present time, before BCG, Taguig, and all of those developments even existed. So people must understand that I know the history. I've even stayed in Tondo. I've even eaten pagpag. You know, I know how tough life is in the Philippines. People have said to me that I'm somehow blinkered and I'm not speaking about the truth, and I'm wearing, seeing the Philippines through rose tinted spectacles. But let me say this, you know, I know the challenges, but as far as I'm concerned, I believe we shall all be proud of the Philippines. We should be proud of this accolade. The reason why the Philippines and Manila was featured in this article is because of the inhabitants. What they've said is this survey across the world was a poll of 20,000 inhabitants of the various cities, meaning to say people in Manila were commenting about their city and why they loved their city. There's nothing wrong in that. Of course, this survey is going to be subjective. Of course, there are some people who are going to complain about the traffic in Manila or about the difficulties and the rising prices and everything else. Of course, I accept that. Of course, I'm not blind. But the way I see it is this. As a foreigner, I should be promoting the Philippines. My wife is from the Philippines. My family are from the Philippines. I believe it's the responsibility of all foreigners to promote the country of their family. Not only that, having been to the Philippines 55 times, I love the country. I love the people. Of course, so many people have said that regardless of the difficulties faced in the Philippines, the Filipino people are resourceful, they are happy, they are caring, loving, welcoming. You know, Filipino hospitality is amongst the best in the world. And the Filipino people are resilient. Whenever there's a challenge, the Filipino people will find a way. The whole attitude of Bahala ka, whatever will be, is so true. You know, I've been to the Philippines and I've seen people standing in the street, you know, tapping the cars so that they can go out into the traffic. This is a job. This is a Filipino improving their own situation. I've travelled hundreds of times on buses across the country. I've seen the vendors getting onto the bus, selling candies, selling water, selling hot dogs or whatsoever. I've seen how difficult it is. Manila is the city that never sleeps. I've seen street vendors selling goods early in the morning, late at night. I've seen people at the market, you know, 24 hours a day selling their products. I've seen how hard life is, but I still maintain that Manila is a very exciting, vibrant city where people do their best to make a way. Of course, it's not perfect. Of course, the Philippines is not without its challenges. I fully accept that. And for those Filipinos who say I'm blinded and the survey is rubbish and it's crap or whatsoever, the survey is not rubbish at all. It is subjective. It is the views of the 20,000 people. It is the review of the editor of the Time Out magazine. It was a fun survey. But as far as I'm concerned, when anywhere in the world where the Philippines is being promoted, where the Philippines is being praised, where Manila is being praised, I believe it is our duty to share that information. The Philippines is doing very well right now. You know, the country's in an upward trend. Under the Build program of the previous administration, there have been many improvements in infrastructure across the country. And the same could be said of this current administration of President Bongbong Marcos. You know, he's a realist, he's a strategist, he's assembled the best team around the Philippines to work for the common good, to serve the Filipino people. And of course, the Philippines is going through a very challenging time economically. Of course, I accept that. There are rising prices, fuel increases, you know, the cost of food is very expensive. I watch it. Don't think I don't watch it, because I'm constantly watching YouTube. I know prices are rising in the Philippines. But what the Philippines has is Philippine pride. You know, the Filipino people are proud of their country. The Filipino people are proud of their nation, proud of their land. And this is the important point. You know, I want to say that I love the Philippines with all my heart. And I also want to say that I am a realist. I understand the challenges the country is going through. But that doesn't mean that I can't be optimistic. That doesn't mean that I could wish the Philippines the very best. That doesn't mean that whenever there is something positive to say, I'm going to say it. Whenever I can shout out about the Philippines receiving any kind of award, about the Philippines doing very well internationally, of course I'm going to speak about that. Of course, I'm going to promote the country. You know, I just find it rather sad that some people seem to be against progress. Some people seem to be quite negative. Some people are trying to put the Philippines down. Let's bring the Philippines up. How do we think there is going to be an improvement in tourism? How do we think there is going to be more businesses investing in the country if some Filipinos themselves speak badly about their own country? We need to be positive. We need to promote the Philippines internationally on the world stage. We need to do everything we can to speak about the wonderful attributes of the Filipino people. We need to speak about the vibrancy, the buzz, the excitement of Manila. How else can we encourage tourists to visit the Philippines if people are going to speak negatively about their country? You know, the award that was received from the Time magazine, where Boracay was mentioned as one of the best places in the world. This needs to be promoted. This needs to be shouted from the rooftops. We need to be jumping up and down. We need to be waving our Philippine flags, and we need to be joyous in the fact that the Philippines is being recognized on the world stage. Even until this day, the Philippines is receiving these accolades. But as I said at the beginning of the video, of course I'm a realist. Of course I know there are challenges. You know, it still saddens me that when I go into a mall in the Philippines and I get maybe a glass of fresh orange and it costs me maybe 400 pesos. Some people need to understand that 400 pesos is a day's wages for some people in the country. I know that. I'm not blind. I know the realities. I know how hard it is. I receive messages every single day from Filipinos who ask for help with milk with their children. You know, they ask for food. They ask for the cost of medical bills. I know there are challenges, but let's try and lift up the Philippines. Let's pray for the country, pray for the people, pray for our leaders, and do everything we can to support the Philippines through these economic challenges. Let's be there for the country right now. Let's be there for the people. And I don't believe foreigners have got any right whatsoever to be critical. You know, I really don't. I believe we should just be supporting the country and supporting the people. Anyway, guys, that's all I have to say. Maraming salamat po. Mabuhay Pilipinas.